Let's talk Ruben Amorim leaving Manchester United. Ruben Amorim fired by Manchester United. This was not Ruben Amorim's decision, though I think he probably saw it coming. After drawing 1-1 with Leeds United in the press conference, he talked about his frustration with him wanting to be the manager and not the head coach. Obviously, there's been discontent over the last few months with the hierarchy, which includes Omar Berrada and Jason Wilcox, obviously led by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. And look, there's so much to unpack here, like so much. Let's begin with the fact that, Amorim's football was not to Manchester United's fans' taste. Under 40% win ratio. He's been there for 14 months, but 0 trophies. Last season, even though he took over in November, it was still a substantial amount of time for him to something get going. Manchester United ends with 42 points, I believe, the worst ever Premier League finish in club history. And so there was a lot of promise this summer where he brought in Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, so many players that could maybe help Amorim's system and the way that he wants to play, which was another topic of conversation for the ownership about how they were not really happy with the formation. And so, Amorim, who is a very stubborn manager in terms of his philosophies, he did change his formation, against Newcastle, I believe. But you can just see that there's a lot of discontent from both the hierarchy and the relationship that they had with Ruben Amorim. And I think that, honestly, I think Amorim saw it coming, especially after that, press conference that he did against Leeds United. And, United put out a statement, saying, United were in 6th place. I think it's better time than ever now to right now make this change. And, from a footballing perspective, I'm sure there's a lot of Manchester United fans that are happy about this. They weren't happy about, the footballers I was talking about. But, there's the other topic that I want to talk about, which is kind of relative to what's going on with Chelsea as well. On one hand, you can say, yes, Amorim's football was not great, and we'll talk about future managers. Darren Fletcher, the under-18 coach, of course, will take over until apparently the rest of the summer, which is when United will probably make a move for a manager that's more available. Oliver Glasner leaving Palace, of course, some other bigger names as well. We'll have to see about that. But the other topic of conversation here is about the overall picture of United and sort of the bad decision making and the inconsistencies of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's obviously also answering to the Glazer family, who gave Sir Jim Ratcliffe a football operational power for this club. So who is to blame here? Because Amorim, obviously, on the football perspective, did many things wrong. There's no doubt about it. Took United to a Europa League final. They lost to Tottenham, obviously. But no trophies and, worst ever placement in the Premier League last season. But this is under the Glazers, right, who've been there for a long time now. And even beyond that, since Sir Alex Ferguson's departure, including interim managers, there's been 10 people in charge of Manchester United, including interim managers. 7 now after Ruben Amorim, 7 permanent managers. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you about Manchester United as a club, as a hierarchy, as an ownership? Because there's 2 conversations here. One is, are you happy that Ruben Amorim left? Okay, fine. You're happy. I don't want no green screen. There you go. Are you happy that Ruben Amorim left if you're a Manchester United fan? You obviously not happy with the football, the formation, stubborn to be in the formation, the fact that they're 6th, the fact that they're inconsistent. They drew once again. They drew against Leeds United this past weekend. Doesn't look like they're going to get top 4. Definitely not now. Worst ever finish last season. So there's that conversation. Okay, are we happy about Ruben Amorim leaving? That's one side. But the other side is, are you happy about the ownership and once again the direction of this club? Because if you hire somebody like Ruben Amorim, who comes from Sporting, so much success there, extremely proud of who he is as a manager, as a tactician, as somebody that wants to have a lot of control when it comes to who comes in within the squad. What are you expecting when you hire him? He's going to want more than just being a head coach. And that's the label that he was given, a head coach, because the hierarchy basically stipulates that he doesn't make the decisions when it comes to bringing players in. So why would you hire him in the first place? Why don't you hire more of a yes man? Somebody that's going to really just take care of the football and follow the direction that Wilcox wants, that previously Ashworth wanted, that Berrada wants, etc., etc. So again, good decision for Ruben Amorim to leave? Perhaps. But overall picture, do you really trust the foundations of what this hierarchy under Sir Jim Ratcliffe are doing? Because, again, after Ruben Amorim, it's 7 permanent managers that have gone. 7 permanent, 10 including interim, 10 interim managers / head coaches since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson. So if you're a United fan, what do you think here? Are you happy with Amorim's exit? But also, are you happy with what Sir Jim Ratcliffe is doing? Because he was on a podcast a few months ago for the Times, I believe, where he basically said, look, I'm a big fan of Ruben Amorim, and I think he needs years in order to establish what he wants to do and establish our support and blah, blah, blah. Well, obviously that's not what's happened because he's gone. Now, it could be because, things heated up ever since that podcast. And obviously the likes of Wilcox and Berrada just couldn't handle anymore Amorim's frustration with the fact that he wasn't the decision maker. And obviously the press conference after Leeds United was just like it. But this is a real dilemma for both United, the Glazer family, and the fans who continue to struggle of seeing any kind of identity. If there's one thing that you knew about Manchester United in the 90s under Sir Alex Ferguson, it was an identity. It was a clear, communicative, single-minded vision. That's why United won over and over and over again. Because everything, and by the way, when Sir Alex Ferguson first arrived to United, it wasn't all great. But then when the Premier League came into the frame, they became a single-minded machine that won everything in sight. And now what you have since the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson is a conflict of ideologies between the ownership. And then when you look at the Glazers, who, by the way, have borrowed money against the club, they don't really seem to be invested from a footballing perspective, more so from a business perspective. Then you have Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who comes in and he's meant to take care of everything, meant to bring consistency, meant to bring a foundation, meant to bring peace, meant to establish this new sense of ambition for United, a brand new stadium, etc., etc. But the football remains inconsistent, and it's because there are arguments within the hierarchy. You can't do that at a club. Again, Chelsea's having the same problem. Successful clubs are the ones that follow one single-minded vision, pure and simple, and that's not happening at United. So United fans, what do you think? Throw in the comments. Are you happy about Amorim's firing, and are you happy about the direction of the club? It seems that Darren Fletcher will be the interim manager until the end of the season, and then we'll have to wait to see. Who would you like to see next? Look, here's the other conversation. Whether it's Gareth Southgate, who I doubt, Roberto De Zerbi, that I doubt, whether it's Xavi, which I doubt. Zinedine Zidane is reportedly taking over the French national team after Didier Deschamps after the World Cup, so he's out. Oliver Glasner, perhaps. Whoever comes in, as long as they're given this title of head coach and they're not fully in control of who comes in and who comes out, these problems are going to continue to happen. But breaking news, Manchester United has said goodbye to Ruben Amorim. And, it's interesting to see what happens next. For Amorim, I don't think he'll find another club. And if there's a club that really follows in his vision and supports him 100% and has the right players, I think he'll do well once again. Perhaps a return to Portugal, perhaps he'll take a break. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of Manchester United, once again, just like Chelsea, there is a clear decapitating relationship between those who make the decisions and those who want to make the decisions.